Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl, as always in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. Civic Center TV, of course, on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Alongside Birmingham Area Municipal Access on those same exact channels in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the Village of Franklin. Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. In addition, online in high definition, CivicCenterTV.com. You can watch each and every episode of our show, the Oakland County Megacast, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, live on the Civic Center TV website. Just click on the link that says Watch Live. Ronnie and I will be right there with all of our great guests each and every day on the show. In addition, on the radio, of course, as I said, 89.3 Lakes FM and on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff. That is a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District under the supervision of station manager Ron Whittables. And we thank Ron and his entire team at The Biff for being with us each and every day on the Megacast. Today, our Facebook partner, broadcasting us on their Facebook page via Facebook Live, is the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, and we thank our Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commissioner and the Executive Director of that organization, Suzanne Levine, for bringing us onto their Facebook page once again today. We also thank their team's social media guru, Vito Kukuru, for setting that up as well, as we broadcast each and every day, bringing you the latest news about COVID-19 and other key news stories from around the local area. On our website, we have those stories posted each and every day, CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus, where our top story today, a judge orders summer school students must be tested for COVID-19. Detroit public school officials have 5 days beginning Wednesday to test more than 630 summer school students for COVID-19 as a condition of keeping the program operating, a federal judge has ruled. The Detroit School District Attorney Janice Ford argued the order was unfair, stating that no legal authority to order testing of students and that testing is not required in Michigan. Governor Gretchen Whitmer's executive orders on reopening schools. Quote, the test is for the benefit of the child. The people who should be complaining are those in the suburbs or other parts of Michigan who are not required to go through a test, end close quote, said U.S. District Judge Arthur Tarnow. Quote, the injustice is they could be in school that could be, they could be in a school, my apologies, that could be unsafe. If a parent refuses to consent to testing, the judge said the child is out of school. An estimated 650 students attend summer school. So, Ronnie, this is a developing story that's been slowly but surely simmering and building up to this point where Detroit Public Schools, of course, just in the recent weeks, announced that they were going to hold in-person summer schools. Now Detroit Schools has students back in session. They are holding their summer schools for over 600 students, and a federal judge is now ruling that every single one of those kids must be tested. They have only 5 days to do that, a very lofty test to not only get those kids tested properly, get the results back to them, and then determine where do you go from there. Do these kids, especially if they test positive, are they going to be able to continue their learning at all, or are they going to be able to continue their learning virtually, in that case, or not at all? And the rest of the kids, how do you continue to keep them separated and continue to keep them tested in that case? Because if it's required now, it's certainly going to be required down the line.
That's what's going to be interesting about this. This could have huge ramifications for all school districts throughout the entire state of Michigan. Will other schools now going forward have to have students tested? And I would imagine along with the students, it would be staff as well as the teachers prior to them coming back into the classroom. As we were talking before the show, if this becomes a mandate, where are they going to get the test? How often are they going to have to be tested? And there's a lot of money associated with that as well, Tyler.
Yeah, schools are already struggling to put in place the measures they need for virtual learning, for social distancing measures, for PPE, and so on. They're getting some benefits from the state's budget and the bipartisan rider that was in that budget from the Federal CARES Act, as well as, especially in our area, some aid as well from the county level. But regardless, that's still a lot of extra money being put into individual testing for each student for that school district specifically. and in this case, it's just Detroit as of now, but and as the article did mention, Governor Whitmer does not currently have a mandate in place, although she is calling for a federal mask mandate, which could lead to other state mandates maybe down the line if this current spike we're in, so to speak, continues. But it creates a lot of additional issues, not only for these families and for these kids who could potentially have their students pulled from summer school or even from school in the fall and beyond for a positive COVID-19 test and potentially be left without any possible further education that they may need at this moment in time. So this story, we're already seeing protests downtown in the city of Detroit because of the fact that they're back in school. I'm sure that this is going to cause even more conversation to be had in the city of and in the local metro area as well. Other top stories at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. While we're on the topic of virtual learning, the concern of cyber criminals targeting remote learning has arisen recently. Officials believe cyber criminals are looking to target thousands of students learning online in Michigan. FBI agents are already working to get ahead, issuing alerts to help parents, students, and school districts prepare from a security standpoint. The most important measure parents can take is to check their internet security, change passwords, and download the latest security protection onto every device in the home. During the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, ransomware attacks are becoming more common in businesses and school systems. FBI officials are warning schools about an attack involving a virus that holds computer systems hostage until a payoff. School districts should have all their systems up to date, backup systems in multiple places, and a plan in place for cyber attacks, experts said. Now, we've already seen during the course of this pandemic, Ronnie, major issues with cyber attacks and with fraudulent activity in regards to unemployment. That similar activity to remote learning could have a critically negative impact on our schooling in the fall and going forward.
Well, this has already been an issue with the Zoom platform where hackers have gotten into Zoom and taken over. So this is going to be interesting. Or, I will say sometimes I have a Mac, so a lot of times I don't do the update because it slows down the computer. So I do understand why some people don't put the latest software and updates on there. But that does make you vulnerable. And the other thing with your Wi-Fi connection, it's not just about the password, but also make sure you change that password often and don't use a password that is commonly used on your other devices or other programs as well.
And the suggestion to change your passwords often is for the purpose of these hackers are going to be working at these passwords regardless, and the more often you're changing your password, the tougher it's going to be for them to be able to breach your security protections that are in place. And especially in these times we're in, where virtual telecommunicating and where virtual learning is going to be so crucial, especially through the rest of 2020, but definitely, it's highly possible in 2021 in the future. Your internet security, your computer security right now is more important, arguably, than ever before.
Exactly.
For those looking for recreation, and maybe not the safest recreation, but recreation nonetheless, maybe some good news for you. Reservations are no longer needed at Cedar Point. Due to COVID-19, Cedar Point originally required guests to make advance reservations online or at the amusement park's app since its July 9th opening date. However, as of July 21st, guests are no longer mandated to do so. The park is following safety guidelines by requiring guests to take a health screening on the park's app 24 hours prior to attending. All guests and employees are also required to wear masks at all times, undergo a touchless temperature screening, and practice social distancing. Last week, Cedar Point announced 3 employees had tested positive for coronavirus. The employees were screened and detected with coronavirus prior to the park opening and prior to serving at their park locations. The park remained open despite the employees testing positive. Interesting decision making there from Cedar Point to open the park up to non-reservation patrons, especially after positive COVID-19 tests.
Are you a Cedar Point person, Tyler?
I am. I haven't been there. It's been a few years. I think the last time I was there was as a camp counselor in the local area, but I do enjoy it.
It's a huge destination for people throughout Metro Detroit as well. People are trying to get out of the home. I could not imagine, though, going on a roller coaster, with a mask on. So that part of this seems a little bit surprising, although I know that you need to do that. You are in public, and being socially distanced from people as well. So I don't know if I love Cedar Point. I love roller coasters. I have been going to Cedar Point since I was, like 5 or 6 years old. It was our big summer trip. And I could not imagine doing that. So I don't know if I would want to go right now, because I think wearing a mask while you're on a roller coaster would take away from the fun.
I'm immediately suspicious of any organization at this point in time that is loosening restrictions at their location for who's coming in and how they're being tested, especially when you have potentially thousands of people that will be filing in a given day and tens of thousands in a given week. That definitely makes me suspicious. So unfortunately, I don't entirely agree that Cedar Point would necessarily be a safe location at this point in time for recreation. Maybe wait until later on in the season if things look better all of a sudden, or maybe wait until next year for that wonderful trip. Lastly, Michigan nears 75,000 coronavirus case mark. An additional 573 cases has been confirmed by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on Tuesday. That brings the state's total to 74,725 cases since March. The health department also reported 9 new COVID-19 deaths since Monday, bringing the statewide death toll to 6,135 as of Tuesday. Of the 22,886 COVID-19 diagnostic lab tests reported Monday, 21,915 yielded negative results, and 971 were positive, which is 4.24% of the total tests. Tuesday's report also included 8,334 probable cases and 247 probable deaths, for a total of 83,059 cases and 6,382 deaths if you're including the confirmed and the probable cases. So our numbers continuing to spike. This in the late 500s. The last couple of days have been right around the late 400s. So a little bit of a jump from Monday's numbers to yesterday's numbers, but still staying a lot lower than the major spike we saw last week and the ones we've seen over the last couple of weeks. So maybe this is a little bit of positive news as we continue forward.
If we can keep these numbers steady and ride out this storm, hopefully this will play into the decision making for the governor to move Michigan into phase 5, so businesses can continue to open. And I think that would also offer a lot of peace of mind for teachers and parents as we head back into the school year.
Those are our top stories online at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. You can find all of our latest coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic news and other top stories from the local area on our COVID-19 page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also, there are links there to helpful resources, trusted resources from the Centers for Disease Control, the state of Michigan, and from the COVID-19 page on the Oakland County government website. And joining us now, our first guest today is a member of the Oakland County government. She is the District 5 representative on the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. Kristen Nelson joins us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Commissioner Nelson, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So it's been a while since we've last had you on. How are things going with you as of late?
Things are going great. They're busy right now. It's budget season here in the county. So aside from working hard, getting our grants out to our communities, with our CARES Act money, we are also charging full speed ahead with our budget hearings. It's been busy.
How have those budget hearings been impacted by COVID-19? Obviously, there's been a lot of money that's been moved around. A lot of that's through grants and through the federal CARES Act dollars. And we'll talk more about specifics on those programs that those are supporting in just a moment. But in terms of next year's budget, I would imagine it's taken a hit like many other municipalities and county governments and school districts have from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sure. Just as everything else that we've seen, Oakland County has not been immune to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. With that being said, we are charging full speed ahead. There's, a lot of things that have come to light in regards to the pandemic that, we're still going to work on, despite having, $219 million of the federal grant monies from the CARES Act, and knowing that that expires, we have to use that money by the end of this year. We know going into 2021 that there are things and initiatives that we are still going to push forward despite not having that extra COVID money. So, mental health is a huge component. Looking at the social injustice aspect of it as well. So I'm really excited that as we proceed through the next couple of weeks with our budget hearings at the county, that we're going to still push forward with a lot of initiatives that you are seeing the county working on right now.
And that is really good news to hear, I would think, for anybody living in the area, especially in our local area. In our local area that we commonly reporting on at our channels here at Civic Center TV and Lakes FM. Talking about the federal CARES Act money, and that has to be used, it has to be sent out and utilized by the end of the year in order to be utilized at all. There's so many programs currently underway or that are on the docket coming up soon in Oakland County to help support a variety of different communities within our Oakland County community. Can you go into detail about some of those key programs, who they're currently helping, and how people can get involved or apply for those dollars?
Absolutely. As we all know, many individuals and small businesses throughout Oakland County are struggling with the lingering costs associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. And Oakland County is working hard to bring much needed relief to our residents and small businesses suffering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. As you said, back in April, the Oakland County received $219 million from the federal CARES Act money. And I am proudly to say that we are supporting so many different and amazing grant opportunities, and we're distributing millions of dollars to support our small businesses, our manufacturers, our local governments, our residents, nonprofits, and veterans with assistance programs for rent, mortgage, utility, and food assistance. Presently, right now, there are 6 active grants presently open, with grant deadlines ranging from anywhere mid-August all the way through the end of November to help support our local communities, residents, veterans, and nonprofits. I encourage everyone to check out the county's COVID resource website, because what you will see is you will see those active grants appear first. It's very important that those individuals interested in looking at applying, that they look at the eligibility components of it, because there are some unique eligibility requirements for some of those grants. However, if there are any questions, because let me tell you, with all these grant applications that have been going out over the course of the past couple months, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and confused and not really know what grants are going to be most applicable to me and what I'm looking at applying for. So I encourage every and all individuals and organizations to contact your county commissioners. I know I can be contacted at nelsonkd@oakgov.com. And in addition to, you can always call me. My phone number is 248-496-7968, because it is a difficult time to maneuver through a lot of these grants. And we're here to help, because we want people to apply for these grants. We want to give this money out. We just need people and businesses and nonprofits applying for them. And we are proudly continuously accepting those grant applications.
Oakland County Commissioner Kristen Nelson with us. She is from Oakland County's 5th District on the Oakland County Megacast. Among these programs that are available, these 6 currently standing grants available to the public, I would say one of the most timely ones, given Governor Whitmer's eviction moratorium having since expired, would be the COVID-19 rent, mortgage, and utility relief program. Now, that doesn't expire until the end of the month of August, but people need that money as soon as possible, especially if they're in a situation where they are working out terms with their landlords or they're in a spot where they could potentially be evicted from their homes or are incurring late fees on their rent payments. Who can apply for this grant? How do they go about applying for it? And when can people expect an answer on whether or not they're going to get these funds and how much they might get, considering this is so timely for many people?
Perfect. That's a really great question, Tyler, because this is one of our trickier grants presently right now, because not all cities, villages, and townships will be eligible. And I say that prefacing it first and foremost because it's important to know. And a lot of times the big question is, well, why is that? I just spoke with a group in Waterford Township yesterday in regards to this. And so basically, there are a half a dozen local city, villages, and townships that are not eligible through this Oakland County grant for rent, mortgage, and utility assistance because the federal government gave those local city, villages, and townships direct federal CARES monies. And each of those city, villages, and townships have decided what they're going to do with that money. So again, first and foremost, please make sure that you are eligible for this specific grant, and rest assured, we hear our residents loud and clear that this still is not enough, and we need to make sure that there is more support for individuals when it comes to rent, utility, and mortgage. As you said, there's two things that expire at the end of this month, and that's your $600 additional of unemployment, and in addition to what you just said in regards to the evictions. And we know that come September and October and into November, this is when our constituents and our citizens are going to need the most support. So as we open up this grant process, it is definitely in the works of looking at what more we can do to help assist the people within our communities across Oakland County. As far as how do you apply and the time frame, I encourage any and all who are interested to apply ASAP. And one of the great things that we have learned throughout our grant application process is the timeliness in making sure that this money is being deposited into the accounts of individuals. So hear me when I say that it is at the forefront of our brains right now to make sure that when those applications get turned in and we bring them forth to our oversight committee, our goal is to have a turnaround rate of no more than 2 to 3 weeks of these grants going back out into the public's pocket.
With so many people in need, every line filled out, every I dotted, every T crossed is going to be important. What information should people be prepared to provide to the county as they're applying for these grants to ensure that they put their best foot forward?
That's a really great question, because each grant is unique to what exactly the application pertains to. That information can vary. I do know, we did receive some feedback from our small businesses early on that some of the questions and the time that it took to fill out the grant applications was a lot. So in light of that, what we did as a county is we increased the number of people, not automated systems, not automated, answering machines, but people to assist individuals in filling out this information. So unfortunately, I don't have a concrete answer for you in regards to what information is specifically needed. I do, however, want to say that if there is any questions or any problems or any concerns with the information that is required in these grants, reach out to us. We have people on call and ready and willing to help assist through this process.
Kristen Nelson with us. She is the Oakland County Board of Commissioners representative from the 5th District with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Commissioner Nelson, as we're approaching the fall, kids are going to be going back to school. That's right now been the critical issue, at least in the state of Michigan and for many other places across the union, as schools prepare to bring students back, as parents and families prepare to bring students back into the classroom as well, whether it be in a hybrid capacity or fully in school or fully virtual, whatever the case may be. But a lot of our local school districts with budget cuts from the state of Michigan that are still not entirely clear to them in terms of per pupil cuts, and added programs that are in place now to protect the students and to ensure that education has continuity regardless of what happens with COVID-19. There's still a lot of monetary struggles for these schools as they're preparing. We talked yesterday with Avondale School Superintendent Dr. James Schwartz about their preparations to try to get technological equipment for students should they have to go back from all in person to all virtual, and they're still struggling financially to make that happen. Is there anything in the works at the Oakland County level to help support our local school districts as they continue to make these efforts to educate our children during the pandemic?
Yes, that is a great question, and I'm glad we are talking about this. As I previously had said, when we take a look at the CARES money, there is a time frame and a timeline that money has to be spent. So in recent conversations that we've had earlier in this week, it was bringing to the board, what can we do to help support our public schools throughout Oakland County? As you touched upon, broadband internet is a really big component. Having accessibility to technology, computers and laptops is a huge area that we have to do better on. I don't have a lot of information to give you right now as far as specifics, but I can guarantee that as we move past December and into 2021, and as we proceed through our budget hearings over the next couple weeks, there are conversations presently taking place in regards to how Oakland County can still further assist our schools past the CARES Act monies. And I'm really excited to come back here in the next couple months and share with you some of the great supports that we are looking at implementing within our schools. And right now we're working with a variety of different partnerships outside in regards to looking at what we can do to partner with these organizations for inside of our school. One of the most pressing issues right now is mental health. We know we've all experienced our own personal journey through this pandemic. And as we all know, the challenges are still going to continue into the new year. And so with that being said, we are planning on looking at a variety of different ways that we can help financially support our school districts, because it is so important. Education is so important. As a previous special education teacher who, I taught in public schools for 15 years, it's scary times right now. And I just think that it's so important that we support each other and not point fingers at each other, but do the best that we can with the information and the data that we have presently to help drive what is the safest means of going about getting our students back into the classroom. I think that, virtual platforms are a really great alternative, but I don't think it's the one solution for all students. So hear me when I say we are definitely working behind the scenes to look at what we can do as a county to help support our public schools in Michigan.
Kristen Nelson with us. She's the Oakland County Board of Commissioners representative from District 5 on the topic of mental health, because we've talked with other people about the pandemic's impact on different areas of life and what residual, for lack of better terms, residual epidemics that will be spanning from the pandemic even after it passes. We talked with Gary Gilbert from Oakland University about the infodemic we're in, about misinformation and how we're consuming news. And we've talked with mental health experts also about the lingering effects that this pandemic is going to have on the general community. And of course, you've touched on that approach from the angle of how we're going to help our students, but how are we going to help everybody else, our adults and our seniors in the local community through their mental health crises that may amount from the pandemic? Is there anything in the works in Oakland County through the health department, through the Board of Commissioners, through the executive office, or partnership thereof that will help these people going forward?
Increasing access to mental health and wellness programs and services is a top priority. We all know that in order for us to have healthy communities, we have to have healthy people that make up those communities, and we must do better at providing people with the resources and tools that they need to sustain overall mental, physical wellness. I heard somebody say the other day, they coined the term COVID-19 fatigue. And I swear I completely understood the concept of that, because we are all going through, challenging times, not just as a community, not just as a county, not just as a state, not just as a country, but each and every one of us are going through our own personal journey within all of this. And it is so important that we have supports and increased supports to help people who are struggling and adjusting to not just life post, COVID-19, but maintaining that motivation to continue to move forward in these uncharted waters. And I think that's one of the biggest areas right now that has a lot of us in a very unstable place of just not knowing what the future is going to bring, because there is so many unknowns. The other big piece with this is here just this past April, I proudly got to spearhead a new task force in the county. It's our social connectedness task force with our seniors. We've known that loneliness and isolation has been a mental health issue amongst our seniors for quite some time, and COVID has only exacerbated that. And so one of the things that this task force is aimed at doing is trying to look at solutions to how we can help eliminate that digital divide that has severely isolated our older adults, low income individuals, and others who face those barriers accessing those online resources and tools. So we are well aware that there are things that we could start to do better here in the county as we move forward. And, you know, we've never gone through a pandemic like this before with COVID-19. And so we're learning along the way. We're learning what we could do better next time. But most importantly, it's identifying those weak points presently and not just relying on the CARES money to help support those efforts, but also making sure that as we move forward within our budget in Oakland County, that we are keeping these same concepts and priorities at the forefront of our future.
Commissioner Nelson, anything else you'd like to touch on today before we let you go?
Yes, I want to touch upon one thing, and you were talking about it earlier on. There is so much miscommunication out there in regards to wearing masks. And it is so important to get through this noise and get down to the nuts and bolts on why it is so important that we wear masks. You know, the science is clear. Wearing face masks that cover your mouth and your nose helps prevent the spread of COVID-19. You know, as one of my favorite astrophysicists says, the good thing about science is it's true whether or not you believe in it. You know, science is not in the statements, science is in the evidence. And there are studies that demonstrate and show that more people wearing masks means greater protection for everybody. And I think it's important that we kind of remember that I wear a mask to keep you safe, and you wear a mask to keep me safe. And, you know, while wearing a mask is a reduction strategy rather than an absolute prevention, it's still important. I mean, nobody is taking cholesterol medication because they're going to prevent a heart attack 100% of the time, but you're reducing your risk. You know, it's the same thing of, you know, clearing out that candy and cookie drawer. It's not going to melt off maybe those extra 15 pounds you gained during quarantine, but you're reducing your likelihood of going back into that drawer and gaining further weight. So it's just really important to recognize that we have to wear face masks to move forward. And, you know, requiring the public to wear face coverings in indoor spaces and outdoor crowded spaces isn't just about protecting people, but it's about protecting the gains that we've made as a state and as a county, and it's strengthening our ability to get our economy back on track. You know, containing this virus is a community effort, and not only do individuals need to wear face masks, but it also requires our businesses to support this effort. You know, the economic toll of COVID-19 is going to continue to mount, and yet reopening our economy is essential to moving forward. And one of the ways that we can guarantee better results of moving forward is protecting ourselves and taking personal responsibility of protecting other people.
Well, Commissioner Nelson, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Kristen Nelson, Oakland County Commissioner from the 5th District, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And there's so many different issues that we're tackling in our community right now during the pandemic, in the context of the pandemic, Ronnie, but also further beyond the pandemic. And we have to start thinking about that as we're approaching the latter half of the year, as we're right now forecasting the early 2021, seeing a vaccine being available and possibly being distributed by then. What are we going to do after the pandemic? And it's best to think about that now as we're approaching the latter half of the year. And it's interesting to see that there's so many programs in place in Oakland County right now to help people right now, but that they're also considering going forward. What are we going to do to help the communities at need, the people at need in those communities going forward after this pandemic passes?
A lot of things to get through on this, and so we have to, appreciate our elected leaders because they are trying to juggle this in so many different arenas, not just the school side, but the mental health side, but the business side as well. So they're looking at this issue and this pandemic from so many different facets and trying to help all of us navigate through it. I will say when she was very passionate about the mask and her message about the mask. Pretty much every time I go out in public, though, you do see people wearing the mask with it down under their nose. Almost every single time I go out, I see that.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot more lately than I had in the past few weeks, which is really interesting because for a while there, people were wearing them and they were wearing them perfectly. And now I'm seeing a lot of people, even people that before that I know that have been wearing masks wonderfully, that are now wearing it below the nose, which just defeats the whole purpose. And it's wild to think about. There's so much misinformation out there about the efficacy of the masks altogether, but also about how to wear them effectively. We've spoken about that numerous times on this show with Dr. Russell Faust from the Oakland County Health Department, as well as Dr. Jamie Tawil and other medical officials. You got to have it over your nose. You got to have it nice and snug on your cheeks and under your chin. Otherwise you're basically not wearing it at all. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about more of similarly what we talked about with Kristen Nelson regarding senior issues related to COVID-19. We'll talk with an expert in those topics and find out how one local organization is helping seniors through this COVID-19 pandemic. That and more coming up. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. That is on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, similarly to what Civic Center TV is. In addition, online in high definition, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And also we are on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, today, as well as 89.3 Lakes FM. And we also are happy to be on the website of the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, and we appreciate having them on with us today as our Facebook partner on the program this year, the Oakland County Megacast on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and our family of TV and radio stations. We're going to just quickly go through all the resources we have, the helpful resources we have on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, because we talk about all that misinformation out there. About the coronavirus, about mask wearing, and so on. We have helpful resources on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. You click on these resources like the CDC resource. It takes you right to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's coronavirus COVID-19 website. It gives you information about how to protect yourself, information on mask wearing, social distancing, and so on. How to make proper face coverings or obtain face coverings, what to wear, how to wear them properly, visiting public locations, and what to do if you're sick. So if you're not sure if you need to get tested or if you need to stay home in an abundance of caution, they have information about that right there on the website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, and click on CDC resources. In addition, we have resources from the state of Michigan's COVID-19 website directly from us. You don't have to look around for it and all that. We'll find it right on our website, including information about public service announcements, which will have helpful information in a concise format, and more information on those many programs in place from Governor Whitmer and her team, including the Michigan Safe Schools Roadmap, Michigan Safe Start website, and the plans. You can figure out what does Phase 4 mean, what does Phase 5 mean, what would happen if we go back to Phase 3, and we have resources from Oakland County directly going to their coronavirus COVID-19 website. It has helpful information to their nurse on call hotline, as well as their hotline information via email, text information so you can get alerts from the Oakland County government, and resources that will help you find COVID-19 tests in your local area. All of that online on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And there's so much going on in our community that's affecting our seniors at this point in time. And joining us now on the program, our second guest today, is the director of the Quality of Life Center with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Jackie Smiertka joins us now. Jackie, thank you for being with us. So once again,
Hi.
How are you? How's your team at the Quality of Life Center?
Oh, very well, very, very well. We are all healthy, thank God, and I knock on wood every day.
Well, that's good. That is good news to hear. We appreciate hearing that from you. So what services, for those who are unfamiliar, does the Quality of Life Center offer to our local seniors?
Actually, it is for seniors who have some form of the dementias, whether it be Alzheimer's, Lewy body, stroke victims, that type of thing. We have had a large number of different types, even as I mentioned, a Crohn's patient. Since I've been in business for 12 years, so it's a medical model daycare is what it is, and we are also a working model daycare, which there's more to be said about that, but that's the type of thing that we do here, and it is basically a respite for the caregivers. I always say I don't worry about my gang in the back because they are enjoying themselves. I do worry about the caregivers. I was one for my mom for 6 years, and it's a very emotionally stressful thing to do. I think it's the hardest job anyone could ever do in their lifetime, a very emotional job. So I'm always very protective and help the caregivers as much as I can in any way that I can.
In these times that we're in right now, where we're worried about the coronavirus and the spread of the virus, especially to our senior population, it has to be a really tough time to navigate for those caregivers who do utilize your service and maybe are a little bit nervous to bring their loved one to this center to take on your adult daycare services. How do you maintain COVID-19 compliance and safety, both for the families as their caregivers are bringing their loved ones in, for the loved ones who are there, and for your staff, of course, on site?
Well, what we do that I've always done for my 12 years is to constantly clean, to sterilize things, to be able to, we have like Purell all over the place. We have sanitizers for every piece of furniture that we use, everything that they sit on, the areas that they're in. My limit right now are 7 clients, and that's because we can social distance more than 6 feet apart. Because when they work, it's very important that they work a distance away from each other, that they socialize a distance away from each other. So that is what we do. It has worked out quite nicely. We have, and I say this, and I always knock on wood, thank God we've not had a sniffle in the past 3 months, 4 months. It hasn't been a year yet, has it?
That sure feels like it.
It does seem like it's been longer than that. But we do, we have always done that. I've never had, thank God, in the 12 years, I've never had an illness or an outbreak here. The families realize that. The families are sure that I am as safe can be. And so that's the way we operate.
There are a number of services and activities that your organization, I was reading your website earlier, provide to these seniors who are coming into your facilities on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, however often they are there. How important, especially during a pandemic, is it to engage our senior population, to prevent them from those feelings of isolation, to keep them active, to keep their minds engaged? How critical, especially now in the times that we're in, where it's so easy to keep people at home and to keep them isolated, to engage our senior community?
Well, one of the things is that this is known as a medical model and a working model daycare. So the medical model primarily is that we can have doctors come in. I have a podiatrist that comes in every 6 weeks. Of course, with COVID, that kind of delayed things a bit. The stressful part about that, not being able to connect with a psychiatrist or someone that is in the sundowning or the agitation in the afternoon time, to be able to help the family, has been really a rough road. And I can actually say it's, I've had a lot of sleepless nights because of it. But thank goodness we have been able to get that straightened out and the person and individual on an even keel. The best thing I think that helps them is that we also have this as a working model daycare, as I am very proud to say. We actually put them to work. I always tell them that when they come in that my grandma always said, idle hands are a devil's workshop. So we make sure that they are productive. They've done a lot of projects in the past 12 years. I would say it's probably approaching well over 6,000 pieces that they have painted. My husband cuts out the projects, puts them together. They paint them. They go to charities. Every year we have had Children's Miracle Network for the past 10 years, and the Children's Miracle Network receives 100% of the proceeds of the product that we sell. This year, they painted over 140 birdhouses from 12 inches to 8 inches high, and they started in January, thank goodness. And those birdhouses, unfortunately, could not make it over to Costco because of COVID. So we are donating them to a church that is not doing well, and that church will benefit from the birdhouses they have painted. But that's just an example. They do this all the time. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll be able to see the type of work they do. And actually, it's quite surprising.
Jackie Smiertka with us. She is the director of the Quality of Life Center. Just another minute or so with you before we got to let you go, Jackie. Anything else that you'd like to touch on today?
No, other than, I pray we continue to stay healthy. And, yes, we are a safe place right now and a safe haven for the caregivers.
Well, we appreciate having you on today, Jackie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on.
Thank you. Have a great day. Jackie Smiertka, the director of the Quality of Life Center, with us on the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV and radio stations all across the local area. And Ronnie, so critical right now that we provide that support to our senior community who's been heavily affected by this, not only because they are in such a vulnerable population to COVID-19 and because they were so heavily hit early on in the pandemic, but also because of that abundance of caution. They've been stuck at home. They've been stuck at home. They haven't been able to socialize as much, get out as much, and there's so much that needs to happen in order to engage this community and keep them safe during a pandemic.
And as she said, it's not just so much about the patient or your loved one, it's also about those that are providing care for them, because it is extremely stressful during these times. It's stressful when you're outside of a pandemic, but add in this COVID-19 and the pandemic, that's an additional stress. So to be able to know that you can take them someplace for a few hours where they are going to be safe, you're also keeping their mind engaged, because as she said, many of these patients are suffering from dementia on different levels, or maybe they were stroke victims, so they have limited mobility. So this is a good way and a good avenue to engage the patient, but also allow the healthcare worker or the loved one that is helping to care for them take a break as well, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your loved ones. So this benefits so many people in that environment.
And our caregivers, like Jackie said, are so critical right now to providing these seniors with the care that they need in a safe manner. And so any sort of break that we can give to them, as I would imagine their jobs have been even further inflated in terms of time spent with their patients, with their loved ones in this case, and the intensity of that because of the pandemic, because of the isolation, and because of the lack of ability to socialize our senior population, especially our seniors in need, that it becomes that much more difficult for them. So any relief that we can give to our caregivers right now is absolutely huge, as they continue to provide an incredibly necessary service to our senior population, one of our most, if not our very most, vulnerable population to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's going to continue to be an issue. Senior living is going to continue to be an issue, and senior issues are going to continue to be critical throughout the pandemic. We'll stay on top of it. We'll keep talking to experts in the local area to figure out ways that we can help more, that you can help more in the community as well. So with social distancing measures in place, with further COVID-19 guidelines like mask wearing in public places, including crowded outdoor spaces, public gatherings become that much more complicated, and that includes places like our local farmers market. We've previously been to the Oakland County Farmers Market. Today, it looks like Erica Jones is out at the Walled Lake Farmers Market, and we have her with us now in the field on the Oakland County Megacast. Erica, how are things going at the Walled Lake Farmers Market?
Hi, Tyler. So yes, like you said, I'm here at the Walled Lake Farmers Market on Maple, and I'm very pleasantly surprised with what I'm seeing today. It is a smaller farmers market, but the quality is fantastic. And I've gotten the chance to talk with one of the vendors that we have here today, a couple of farmers. So this is Kathleen. Hi. And this is Benzie. Yeah. And they're just going to tell us a little bit about their experience with farming and how it's been to be able to keep up with this during the pandemic. So how is it out here today? Have you been doing this a lot this season?
This is Benzie's first time. But I've been doing markets all season so far. Northville, Brighton, we used to do Farmington. And it was a little bit scary when COVID hit, and it seemed like the farmers markets were going to be shut down because our farm didn't know what it was going to do. But we figured it out. And so this is a little bit of a slower market than what I'm used to. I think this is just a smaller market. But we're doing well, and it didn't rain, so
that's good. So would you say your sales have been impacted a lot by the pandemic, not just necessarily here today, but even at some of the larger markets? Are they slower during this time?
Surprisingly, I thought, like the first market that we did this season, I thought it was going to be really slow. And it turned out that it was bigger than ever that day. And it was a rainy day too, which is normally rainy days. You make like half your sales. So we were pleasantly surprised that there still seems to be a strong turnout at the farmers markets.
Definitely. Well, I think farmers markets are, especially during this time, a great opportunity because as people have limited activities that they're able to do, this is one thing that's been able to maintain through the pandemic. So I think people are eager to have something to do and make purchases. So it's a great way to get out and buy some fresh produce.
I like getting to still socialize and like talk to people, and I feel safe because I'm outside and everybody's wearing masks. So, I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for talking with us. Good luck with everything. We really appreciate it. All right. So that was Kathleen and Benzie at the farmers market. And what I've noticed is cool about the Walled Lake Farmers Market, as I said, it is smaller than some of the other farmers markets that we have in our local community, but the variety is fantastic. Not only do we have produce, but they have dairy, they have honey, they have a nail technician selling nail products, they have jewelry, so all sorts of different things to make it, although small, very interesting and a lot of variety out here at the Walled Lake Farmers Market. And it's just a cute little setup right next to the fire department. Very easy to come here on Maple. You can't miss it. And if you want to just walk around, it'll take you 5 minutes, buy a couple things. My mom's actually been out here. She's bought some stuff from the vendors. They have different flavored honey sticks. So a lot of great things to buy, even on a day like today where the weather might not be super great. It's good to get out and social distance and be able to buy some things from the farmers market.
It does look, Erica, like these vendors are well distanced apart from each other. I'm seeing just the ones that were right behind you. It looks like their tents are relatively far apart. They're at least 6 feet apart. People in the tents are maintaining some sort of distance if they can, and it looks like most people, if not everybody, is wearing a mask, but there's still a fair amount of people there as well. Are they doing anything to limit the number of people? I know that these gatherings do have a specific limit for outdoor gatherings.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they are doing a fantastic job of social distancing at the tents and inside the tents. Pretty much everyone is wearing masks. There are no specific measures to limit the amount of people coming in because it is a rather large outdoor space, so that hasn't been too much of a concern, and everyone is being very respectful. No one's on top of each other, and the tents themselves are providing a great space for social distancing.
Well, okay, anything else from out at the Walled Lake Farmers Market?
No, not really. That's what we have going on here. Like I said, I am very pleasantly surprised with this farmers market, as it is smaller, but definitely just as nice a variety, if not even more, than some of the larger farmers markets I've visited. So I definitely think it's a great place on Wednesdays for people to stop by.
Well, Erica, we thank you very much for that report. Erica Jones out at the Walled Lake Farmers Market with us on the Oakland County Megacast. You are watching and listening to us on our family of TV and radio stations, including Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 on Civic Center TV and on Birmingham Area Municipal Access in communities such as West Bloomfield, Keagle Harbor, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the village of Franklin. In addition, we're on 89.3 Lakes FM. That is 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and on 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills. That is 88.1 WBFH, The Biff. Ronnie and I will return after this quick break, and when we come back, we will be speaking with a local clerk about how her team is helping to ensure that our elections are done so securely, and that people who are submitting their absentee ballots can get those submitted and have their votes count by the deadline. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV and radio stations.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the medical director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. In addition, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and 88.1 WBFH, The Biff. And today, our Facebook partner is the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, and we appreciate having them on with us today as we continue to bring you the latest news and information from around the Oakland County area on our family of TV and radio stations in relation to COVID-19 and other top stories. And there's so much that is making news lately in our local area, even beyond COVID-19 and in relation to COVID-19. One of those key aspects is the upcoming August 4th primary elections and, then, of course, the November general election with so many different variations now in place, of variables in place, including no reason absentee voting and same-day registration. We've talked with other municipal clerks about how they are working to help navigate this for their constituents and their community. And now we're joined by yet another one of our local clerks. We're joined by Aileen Dickson, who is the Troy City Clerk, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Clerk Dickson, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We appreciate having you on. How are you? How's your team over at the clerk's office?
We are very busy, but we are getting ready, and I think we're in a really good position right now to be ready for August 4th. We've had a record-breaking number of absentee ballots that have come in. We're over 20,000 right now, which is more ballots than we've ever done for any election. And I've got a great team of people here. We've hired on a lot of temporary workers that are just focusing on getting those absentee ballots out and then getting them received back in when they come back. So, like I said, we're in a pretty good spot here, but we're very busy.
With the deadlines that are set for absentee ballots, they're not going to count unless they are, as of now, unless they are submitted to their local precinct or to their local clerk's office by the time the polls close on election day. So a lot of different municipalities are putting different programs in place in order to help these absentee voters ensure that they get their votes in by or before the deadline to ensure that those votes are counted. What's going on in the city of Troy to help ensure that these voters' voices are heard in these upcoming elections?
Sure. We've installed additional drop boxes, which I know a lot of other clerks' offices have also done. We've got, we have additional drop boxes outside of City Hall that are open 24 hours for people just to put their ballots or other balloting materials in those boxes. We also have on this Saturday, July 25th, we're having a drive-through clerk's office at City Hall. It's going to be 8 a.m. to noon, and we'll be able to issue ballots, accept ballots, answer questions, register people to vote, do any kind of pre-election activity that anybody would need. And then on August 1st, which is another Saturday, we'll be open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's the weekend that a lot of clerk's offices are open. Each clerk's office would be able to choose their own hours that they wanted to be open that weekend, but we're required to do 8 hours at some stretch throughout the weekend. In Troy, we decided to do all of those 8 hours on Saturday, so we're open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just for absentee voting, registering people to vote, answering questions, taking ballots back from people if they'd prefer to hand them in instead of dropping them in the drop box. At this point, we start encouraging people to use drop boxes instead of the mail. We have always done that. Starting around 2 weeks before the election, we encourage people to hand deliver their ballots if possible to the clerk's office in order to make sure that we have them in our hands by 8 p.m. on August 4th. And, we can mail ballots out until 5 p.m. the Friday before the election. but we, when we have people on the phone or if we're answering questions for people, we encourage them, if possible, to come in person to get their ballots, just to not take the chance with the mail not being able to reach us in time.
When can people go in and get their ballots? Because I know that there's no reason absentee voting, but if someone's registered to vote in the poll at the polls in the upcoming election, and they have decided at some point that they're no longer going to go to the polls, they don't believe it's safe, they're a little concerned about that, or they just want to vote absentee and get their ballots out of the way, when can people go and get those absent voter applications and absent voter ballots from the local clerk's office and submit those?
So they can submit their applications through email, and this goes for anyone throughout the state. You can submit your application to your clerk's office by email or fax, or by Dropbox if you'd like. And in those cases, the ballots will be mailed to you, and that can happen until Friday before the election at 5 p.m. We're open 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. We have those additional Saturday hours I mentioned. People can come in anytime during those hours and get. Our City Hall in Troy is closed to the public. However, we do have a system in place where people can call the phone number on the door once they arrive at City Hall, and one of our staff members will go down and meet them at the door and issue their ballot to them in person. So we're still able to offer in-person service for ballots to voters. And I know a lot of other clerk's offices are doing something similar, or they're open to the public and able to issue ballots to people. So they can, voters can still come in person during regular office hours, Monday through Friday, or on those additional Saturdays to get their ballots. And until 4 p.m. on the day before the election, voters can still get absentee ballots from their clerk's offices. But the condition for that is that they have to vote those ballots in person at the clerk's office the day before the election. So all the way up until 4 p.m., they would still be able to vote absentee, but they would just have to vote them there on that Monday. If you're registering to vote for the first time, then you can register to vote and get an absentee ballot all the way up until 8 p.m. on Election Day. So if you went to your clerk's office and you had not been registered to vote before, you show up at your clerk's office, you could have the option on Election Day to either vote an absentee ballot right there, or you can go to your precinct and vote, depending on how far away your precinct is, whether you'd make it in time, the time of day. But there are lots of options available for voters all the way through even the day before the election.
Aileen Dickson with us. She is the city clerk of the city of Troy with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And in terms of election workers, we've spoken with West Bloomfield's Township Clerk Debbie Binder. We've spoken with Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds Lisa Brown. Election workers during any election season are always a concern. You always want more. You always want to get a different group of people in that are ready to take on that challenge. And just for the future, as people retire and stop doing it, how critical this year is it for more election workers to register with the city of Troy and with other municipalities as they're preparing for this influx of absentee voters and navigating the COVID-19 pandemic as people go to the polls?
So this year, more than any other year, we've had a lot of people drop out due to they're nervous about working out in public in a crowd of people, potential crowd of people in a precinct. We did hire on, we pretty much tripled the size of our absentee counting board. And so we didn't have as much issue finding people that were willing to work in the absentee counting board, but we're continuing to have people drop out from working at a precinct for obvious reasons. They're just nervous about being around that many people. So we also have had a lot of people contact us who are interested in working because they've heard of the issues with having people drop out. So we're still working, we're still looking for people, we're still accepting applications. We're doing training classes the week before the election. So all the way up until the training class, we'll still be taking applications from people. And, it's typical to have people drop out the day before the election or the weekend before the election when they find out, they have to go on a trip or they have to have a medical procedure or something like that. So we always want more people than we actually need because we anticipate that people are going to be dropping out. And this year, because of the pandemic, there are a lot more people who are nervous, longtime workers who've worked, many, many elections. And this year, it's just too much for them to feel like they're putting themselves at risk to be out in public. So if anyone is interested in working, and I mean, I know I'm in this situation in Troy, but I know that every clerk's office all over the state is in the same situation. So if you're someone who is inclined to possibly be interested in working, I would encourage you to reach out to your clerk's office and offer your services and sign up to work. And it's a rewarding experience. And this will be my 52nd election that I've worked for the city of Troy. And every single one, I learned something new. And it's actually kind of a fun experience, even though I understand people might be nervous about working in person at a precinct. It is actually a really rewarding experience. And you can have a lot of fun and earn some money too.
Who can be an election worker?
The minimum, it's a very basic requirement that if you're over 18, you have to be a registered voter in the state of Michigan. So you don't have to be registered to vote in the place that you're working. You just have to be a registered voter in the state of Michigan, and then you could work for any municipality. You can also be an election worker if you're 16 or 17, but you would have to be eligible to be registered to vote if you were 18. So basically that just means you have to be a United States citizen if you're 16 and 17. And then there would be some hourly restrictions because of being a student for that if you wanted to work. But basically anyone can be, any voter can be a worker.
Aileen Dickson with us. She is the city clerk in the city of Troy. Anything else you'd like to touch on today before we let you go? We are taking, and I'm speaking for Troy, obviously, but I know many, many clerks throughout Oakland County, and I know that we're all working really hard to make sure that our workers and our voters are safe when they go vote in person, and that our workers are safe when they're working in the absentee county board. And the state of Michigan has provided PPE and supplies to make it easier for us to make our workers and our voters safe. The county has provided additional resources, such as a $50 bonus for all workers who work in the August or November elections in 2020. The city of Troy, I can't say enough about how supportive the city of Troy has been with basically giving me everything that I could possibly need in order to make sure that our elections are secure and safe, secure for the process and for voting, and safe for all the workers and all the voters. We have outfitted our precincts with personal protective equipment and hand sanitizer and signs reminding people about social distancing markers. We have a plan in place to make sure that voters and workers are 6 feet apart, and that goes for our county board as well. And I know that all the clerks that I have talked to all over Oakland County are all doing the same thing to make sure that everyone is safe. So if someone is thinking that maybe they would want to work, or if they would want to vote in person, I would hope that everyone understands that we are doing everything we can to try to make that as safe and as secure a process as possible. Well, Aileen, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Clerk Aileen Dickson from the city of Troy with us on the Oakland County Megacast, and really interesting programs in the city of Troy to help get these people who are going to be voting absentee, as she said, well over 15,000, right around 20,000, I believe is what she had said, absentee voters in the city of Troy coming up in these upcoming elections. And so there's going to be more need for election workers, and there's going to be more need for creative kind of programs to help these voters get their absentee ballots submitted to the clerks before or at the deadline to make sure that they count. And I love that idea of having the drive-through collection of those ballots at City Hall, and it's going to be a great way to get those ballots into the clerk's office directly, and it's great for the peace of mind of the voters to know that the ballots are right there at City Hall. They've been submitted, and they don't have to worry about navigating the mail, or maybe they're a little nervous about dropping it in a drop box at City Hall. And in that case, you get it right to the source that day of. And I think we're going to see more of those kinds of programs pop up throughout Oakland County as we approach these elections.
COVID-19 has definitely created a lot of chaos in all areas of our lives. But out of that chaos, organizations such as the Clerk of Courts are getting very creative, and they're coming up with these great programs that are allowing us to still be able to do the things that we need to do. And in this case, get out and vote and have your voice heard, which is so important right now in this political time that we're experiencing. So you hope that a lot of these programs that they implement because of COVID, that is making it easier for people to be able to vote, you hope that they do stay post-pandemic, if we ever get there, because these are good programs. And as she said, they're already seeing record numbers going forward, but it's important to know that they are thinking outside the box, they are being creative, and they are making it easier for us to be able to utilize this service.
And it's going to be so necessary as we head into this election season with stricter deadlines than we maybe would have expected previously on getting those ballots in. The League of Women Voters still very much at odds with the state of Michigan, with the court's decisions on requiring these absentee ballots to be into their local clerks and into their local precincts by the time that the polls close on election day. Probably will not see any resolution to that before the August 4th primary, and maybe we'd see something if it's reversed or if it stays in place definitively by the November election, but that's still yet to be seen. So this election cycle is going to be a lot more complicated than it ever has been before, and of course there's always going to be that need for more election workers to come into play, especially as all these municipalities are seeing record number of absentee voters, which I guess was to be expected with no reason absentee voting being in play, but especially during a pandemic when people are a lot more reluctant to go to the physical polls.
What you're hoping is that the younger generation steps up and fills that gap of the poll workers needed at the different polling sites. So there is a shortage, and they are having this issue with trying to get some of these long-term poll workers to return and come back to assist in the polling locations. So what we hope happens is the younger generation, which they're already showing their passion for the system by getting out and being a part of so many of the protests that are going on. So hopefully that they can decide that they want to be a part of the process in a different area as well and have their voice heard at the polling place and help take some of these spots and fill in the gaps at the polling precincts so that we can make sure that there are no issues at the precincts, so that people aren't turned away or they don't get fed up and frustrated and they leave and they don't end up voting. So let's hope that some of the younger people will fill in that gap that's going to be needed August 4th.
Their services are absolutely needed in this upcoming election cycle, both for the August 4th primary and for the November general elections. If you're over 18, you just need to be a registered voter in the state of Michigan. If you're under 18, you need to be qualified to be a registered voter, so be a U.S. citizen, and so on, as Clerk Dickson had mentioned. And you don't have to be a resident of one specific city to be an election worker for another specific city or other municipality. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go through our top headlines of the day, and then we'll speak with more interesting guests. Coming up on the Oakland County Megacast are a family of TV and radio stations. Ronnie and I will return after this quick break.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, joined, of course, by Ronnie Dahl, as I am each and every day here in the studios of Civic Center TV and Lakes FM. In addition, on a family of TV and radio stations, we are joined by Birmingham Area Municipal Access in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the Village of Franklin, and on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, as we continue to bring you the top news and information from around the Oakland County area each and every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon here on our family of TV, radio, and other media outlets on this, the Oakland County Megacast, and today on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have our top stories each and every day. Our number one story today, right at the top. A judge has ordered summer school students to be tested for COVID-19. Detroit Public Schools officials have 5 days beginning Wednesday to test more than 630 summer school students for COVID-19 as a condition of keeping the program operating, a federal judge has ruled. Detroit School District Attorney Janice Ford argued that the order was unfair, stating that there is no legal authority to order testing of students and that testing is not a requirement in Michigan. It's not a requirement under Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's executive orders on reopening schools. Quote, the test is for the benefit of the child. The people who should be complaining are those in the suburbs or other parts of Michigan who are not required to go through such a test, in close quote, said U.S. District Judge Arthur Tarnow. Continuing to quote, the injustice is they could be in a school that could be unsafe, in closed quote. If a parent refuses to consent to testing, the judge said that the child is out of school. An estimated 650 students attend summer school during this season, and 630 students are going to have to be tested. 650 students total attend that summer school. They're all going to have to be tested for COVID-19, Ronnie, and there's only a short amount of time to do it. 5-day window is really quick. I understand the judge's ruling there. I don't entirely agree with that quick of a window if that wasn't going to be a requirement from the onset, but it creates a whole lot of residual issues as well, because if a student tests positive, are there provisions in place to continue summer learning by other means, or are they completely out and possibly being put at a disadvantage because of something that's it's almost entirely out of their control? And how do you manage getting every single student tested in just 5 days, getting those results back, and being able to make those decisions really in a split decision manner?
And we should note that this summer program is on a volunteer basis. It's not a requirement.
Right.
So parents can choose and to allow their kids to go to this program. The judge originally ordered all the testing to be completed in 2 days. And they're saying, hey, look, that's not going to happen. Right. So the window did get extended to 5 days. I think one of the things they're looking at trying to do is reach out to the mayor of Detroit, because they do have extensive testing in the city of Detroit,
yes,
to try to bring them in to assist on this and maybe conducting those tests at the actual schools, so that would alleviate some of the logistical issues of trying to get these kids tested. The big thing coming out of this, Tyler, you can bet a lot of different school districts across the entire state, as well as the unions, are looking at this ruling, and it will be interesting to see if they file separate lawsuits to try to make this mandatory in other districts across the entire state.
I would not be surprised at all if particularly teachers' unions, want this to be put in place, because they're going to be the ones these teachers are going to be the ones that are going to be on the front lines in these brick and mortar buildings with these students, and requiring testing for everybody, or at least for the students coming in, is something that I would think would be something that would be one of their demands, is they're already concerned about calls for all schools to be in person no matter what. And some school districts that are already deciding we're going to try all in person unless we absolutely need to be virtual, or someone really wants to be a virtual learner in this case, we'll give them those options, but we want everyone to be in school. That's where they're going to be learning the best, and we want to put our best foot forward. And these teachers' unions are potentially seeing rulings like this and saying, well, if that's the case there, why wouldn't it be the case here? And that creates a potential snowball effect that could affect every school district potentially in the state of Michigan going forward. So we will stay on top of that story and others at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Our next story, concern of cyber criminals targeting remote learning, as we, of course, prepare for many schools to have remote learning and distance learning provisions in place for the fall. Officials believe cyber criminals are looking to target thousands of students learning online in Michigan. FBI agents are already working to get ahead, issuing alerts to help parents, students, and districts prepare from a security standpoint. The most important measures parents can take is to check their internet security, change passwords, and download the latest security protection onto every device in your home. During the coronavirus pandemic, ransomware attacks have become more common in businesses and school systems. FBI officials are warning schools about an attack involving a virus that holds computer systems hostage until there is a payoff. School districts should have all of their systems up to date, backup systems in multiple places, and a plan in place for a cyber attack, experts say, as we continue to move toward the potential for all virtual learning, hybrid learning, or some other form of learning that involves remote and distance learning provisions for fall for all of our schools across the state of Michigan. This is going to be a concern that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later by these school districts and by the state of Michigan, and on top of that, by these individual families as they're preparing their students for fall as well.
We've already seen cases where the hackers have gotten into Zoom accounts and it moved in on some of these Zoom meetings, and they've been disruptive and even vulgar in some cases. So for that to be able to happen, and it's happened quite often and quite frequently throughout this pandemic, and now going forward with the schools, how secure is that? But I think the bigger issue with this too is the part of how they can hijack your system and hold it for ransom. And we have heard and seen cases like that in the past when it comes to hospitals and their information. Will these schools then, if that were to happen, pay that ransom, or how would they handle that situation? That has to be a huge, huge concern for all organizations and parents as we move forward. I will say I've been kind of surprised I haven't heard any cases of kids that are very tech savvy hacking in to change their grades.
Yeah,
or maybe I'm watching too much TV, but some of these kids are really, really, really smart, though.
All those factors being the case, that's why it's being encouraged in this article that schools have all their backup systems up to date, have their systems up to date, backup systems in place in multiple locations, and have a plan ready for a cyber attack in case they fall victim in the coming months. Lastly, Michigan nears 75,000 coronavirus case mark. In addition, an additional 573 coronavirus cases have been confirmed by the state health department on Tuesday. This brings the state's total to 74,725 cases since March. The health department also reported 9 new COVID-19 deaths since Monday, bringing the statewide death toll to 6,135 as of Tuesday. Tuesday's report also includes 8,334 probable cases of COVID-19 and an additional 247 probable deaths, bringing the total case number to about 83,059 cases and 6,382 deaths. So we're continuing to see a rise in coronavirus cases in the state of Michigan, not nearly as severe as in other states and not nearly as severe as the initial spike we saw in the recent weeks. Things starting to level out a little bit, which may be a good sign for our numbers going forward.
The spikes that we saw in the recent weeks, I think, were directly tied to the 4th of July holiday weekend, people getting off, taking time off work, participating in family gatherings and going out enjoying the holiday, and they were in groups. So no surprise that we saw a spike with that, but hopefully we start to see things level off, and that will help lead into the decision making for Governor Whitmer to eventually move us in to phase 5, so businesses can start to reopen, and there will be a little bit more sense of peace as we start to reopen the schools going into the fall time.
All those stories and more, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also links to reputable resources from the Centers for Disease Control, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and many municipalities in our coverage area here on the Oakland County Megacast as we continue to navigate this coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. It affects all areas of our life, and it's affecting a number of industries, and that is not limited to just small businesses, schools, and so on. It also includes industries like construction and road management. And joining us to talk about that impact and give us an update on what's been going on in the Oakland County area on our roads, we're joined by the Senior Manager of Communications with the Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig Bryson joins us once again on the program. Craig, thank you for being back with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate it. So since we've last spoken, how have you been? How's your team at the Road Commission?
Things are good. We have been fortunately only very minor impacts of the coronavirus as far as staff and our operations, and we're moving ahead gung ho with a big road construction season.
But budgetary issues have been a concern for many other industries, many other sectors of government. Have those budget issues and just COVID-19 issues in general, you said they haven't had a huge impact on the Road Commission, but I'm sure they have had some impact, if at all. What are those impacts looking like, and how's that affecting projects and potentially the roads in our local area as we speak?
Yeah, good question. Two sort of different aspects of that. One is the current year's budget. We've seen some reduction. One of our biggest sources of funding is the state gas tax, and during the coronavirus situation, a lot of people were not driving, so gas tax revenues dropped pretty significantly for a while. So, as a result of that, we've done a number of things. We paused. We had plans to build a new shop for our electrical staff. We have a lot of electricians, traffic signal technicians, those people. They're working in a very old, cramped, temporary facility. We had planned to build a new structure for them this year. That's been postponed. We've postponed some equipment purchases that we planned this year. We've also postponed several projects that we had been planning to pay for 100% with Road Commission dollars. 3 culvert replacement projects, 2 bridge preventive maintenance projects, and 4 intersection improvement projects. So we hope we'll be able to restore those to a future year's budget, but for now, those projects are delayed. That's the immediate year. The bigger question we really have is the coming year or two. We don't yet know what the state legislature is going to do with the general fund portion of road funding. You might recall back in 2015 when they passed a new road funding package, half of that package came from the state general fund. As we all know, the state general fund has a huge hole right now because of the coronavirus. And we're very concerned that the state may start chipping away or take all of that general fund money away from roads. That could be devastating. It could be, a minor impact. We just don't know yet. Worst case scenario, it could take a huge chunk of our budget. So next year is going to be a big question that we just don't know what the answer is to that yet. So we're anticipating that.
As you're anticipating what that impact may be, what should we in the general public be anticipating as the effect of that impact? Should we expect these projects to be taking longer? Maybe they're more drawn out and we have road closures or lane closures that last a little bit longer, construction projects maybe going on for a little bit longer at odder times of the year. What can we expect going forward through the rest of 2020 in regards to road projects, and definitely in 2021 as your budget is impacted then by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Right. So for 2020, the projects that we have going now will proceed. Those are all funded. Everything that's going now, which is a lot of work, will proceed on schedule and will be concluded this year. Next year, worst case scenario, it would be a lot fewer projects. The project schedules would probably be the same for those that did proceed. There would just be a lot fewer projects, a lot less roads would be improved. That means roads that need desperately to be resurfaced wouldn't and would continue to deteriorate. Safety improvements might not happen. Some road widenings, intersection improvements might not happen. That's the worst case scenario.
Craig Bryson with us. He is the senior manager of communications with the Road Commission for Oakland County, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. So you're saying that the 2020 projects that were already going to be in place and are already in motion are going to stay in motion. They're going to continue to be done. So what can we expect? What are some major projects coming up or already in place in Oakland County that the public should be aware of as we go forward?
Well, we've got a lot of work going on right now. Some of it's not in your coverage area, but I'll try to go through some of the stuff that's happening in your coverage area. In Rochester Hills, we're doing some work on Adams Road right now. We've got Adams Road closed between Walton and Avon. where our crews are doing some guardrail rail replacement and some road bank stabilization. Some of the edges of the roads were unstable there, so that's closed through roughly the end of the month. We just finished, some of your viewers may have noticed, we just finished some work on Cooley Lake Road, just west of Union Lake Road, where we had that closed to do some concrete slab replacement. They'll notice a much smoother road through that section now. That's done. But we have another section of Cooley Lake Road on the Commerce White Lake Township border, where we're going to be replacing a culvert starting about August 3rd. That'll last through roughly the end of August. That section of road will be closed for that culvert replacement. Got a couple of small culvert replacements on some essentially subdivision streets in Bloomfield Township on Pickering Road. Those will start in late summer, early fall. Another big one coming up in Bloomfield Township is a culvert replacement on Square Lake Road over the Amy Drain, which is between Opdyke and Squirrel Road. We'll be shutting that down. That is intended to start August 3rd and last probably through the end of August as well. We've got another culvert over on Wise Road in Commerce Township. This one's between Carroll Lake and Union Lake. And that one's ongoing right now, where we've got the road closed while we replace that culvert. And that's going to last till probably mid-September. Other than that, we've got some other major projects going on in Orion Township. We're rebuilding, continuing to rebuild Baldwin Road between Morgan and Walden. We've got a major widening project going on DeQuinder on the Rochester Hills, Shelby Township border, and a lot of little simple resurfacing projects going on all over the county continuously.
Craig, as these projects go on and as time goes on too, and people are returning to work, they're going back into the office, they're commuting again, and they have to navigate these projects. It's a little bit different than before, where we're used to summer construction projects and fall construction projects that impact our commute. But a lot of people that were commuting and haven't seen as much traffic on the road are going to see more traffic. Those who haven't commuted in several months are going to be coming back and readjusting to that. How has that factored into plans from the Road Commission for Oakland County as they're going forth with these construction projects to reduce the impact that these projects may have on people's commutes as they reacclimate themselves to some semblance of normalcy?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been beneficial for our contractors. You know, the less traffic on the road, the easier it is for them to get their projects done. A number of projects have been moving ahead on schedule or ahead of schedule, partly as a result of that. Another partly due to the dry season we've had so far. That certainly has helped us too. But as traffic picks up again, we'll have more traffic. That's where we have road closures, more traffic diverted onto the detour routes, and additional congestion as a result of the road closures. We really have avoided a lot of what would have been normal congestion from road construction so far this year because of that lessened traffic. But as you mentioned, we're starting to see that traffic pick up, and we are starting to see more congestion coming back.
And as we continue to see more people go back onto the roads and they're facing these issues of congestion or just the commute and reacclimating themselves to going to and from work each and every day, these construction workers continue their projects on. They're out there no matter whether or not people are going to be commuting to work regularly or if there's going to be a lesser commute than normal, as we've seen throughout this pandemic. What can the community do to help move these projects forward, to be courteous and to be mindful of these construction workers as they're trying to get these projects done in a timely manner, knowing that, yes, they are providing for a certain extent of time an obstruction, but a necessary obstruction to people's commutes?
Right. And first of all, we appreciate everybody's patience as we do this. We know that, when we close a road or even closing lanes, it's an inconvenience. We appreciate everybody's patience and support of that. This is what we need to do, unfortunately, to fix the roads. But really what can help is obeying when there's a road closure, obeying the detour signs, not trying to go around the barricades. We've had, and we always have a number of problems with people going around barricades or not following the directions of the flaggers if we have lane closures. The more you can do that, even though it's frustrating, it's time consuming sometimes, and you have to wait. But allowing the construction workers to work in their construction zone gets that work done on time. And it's also, even more importantly, I would say it's a safety factor. Those are dangerous jobs working in the roadway. And the more we can make sure that the traffic stays away from the workers, the more we can make sure those workers can get home to their families every day.
And on the topic of these construction workers, they're working in crews. I would imagine that with what's going on, they may be in similar crews each day, but they're interacting with with each other. They're interacting with a lot of equipment, and while it is outside, that creates a lot of touch points and a lot of potential issues of being in potentially close proximity with one another. What does the Road Commission for Oakland County have in place as it stands now to ensure that these construction workers are safe and that they are following COVID-19 measures, regardless of the fact that they are, by and large, working outside?
Great question. So we're constantly reminding them to, social distance, try to make sure there's that 6-foot gap between you. And I think it's human nature. We all sometimes forget you're out in the field, you're having a meeting, trying to talk to somebody, you move in closer, just have to remind them to please stay that 6 feet apart. When you're in groups, even though you're outside, if you choose to, you can wear a mask. That certainly helps. We've asked the public not to approach either our staff or our contractor staff on a work site, just to make sure we keep those distances. And then just constantly avoiding that close contact and washing their hands constantly. I mean, those are really the most we can do right now, and we've been pretty fortunate. Following those protocols seems to be working for us.
Craig Bryson with us, the Senior Communications Manager for the Road Commission for Oakland County, with us on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. Craig, just another few more minutes with you before we got to let you go. Is there anything else that's really important that we haven't touched on today that we should know about upcoming projects, upcoming initiatives from the Road Commission for Oakland County, other ways that the community can help your team do what you need to do going forward?
Sure. So one of the things I mentioned, we're doing a lot of small resurfacing projects all over the county. We call those our preservation overlay projects. That's where we put down a simple 2-inch or so new level of asphalt on top of the existing road without much additional work. Those projects, just so people know, those projects are pretty quick and easy. We get in, we get out. They're inconvenience for maybe 3 days over a 2-week period where they come in, do a little bit of prep work on the surface, do the actual paving, get the new asphalt down, and then they come back on the 3rd day and put the new striping on the roads. It's a great way to get a nice, smooth, new surface on the road with minimal impact on traffic and on the road and on the community at a relatively low cost. It's a good bang for the buck. We think it's one of the most efficient uses of public dollars that we have. So we just, again, thank the public for being patient when those do come. They're all over the county. We come in, we get it done, and we're out of there. And we encourage people to please just be patient when we do come through with those. Again, it's usually about 3 days worth of work over about a 2-week period, and we're in, we're out. But the results are a great benefit for all of us.
And can you talk just before we let you go? We talk about this often with you, but it's good to go back to it and rediscuss it again for those that are not as familiar, or as definitely as people go back out onto the roads. We have so many more roundabouts in our local area now than we have ever had before, and people still have trouble with it, even though that they've been out there for all these years. And definitely people will have some trouble as they reacclimate to driving to and from work and across communities as they're going back, and we slowly but surely emerge from this pandemic. What are some common issues that we run into with people in roundabouts, and what are some suggestions from the Road Commission or resources from the Road Commission for Oakland County that they can access or they can put to work so that they're driving safely and efficiently through these roundabouts?
Great question. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great topic. First and foremost, the main reasons we like roundabouts are two. One is safety. Roundabouts have vastly fewer serious injury crashes and fatalities. They're a much safer form of intersection than a signalized intersection. And number two, they move a lot more traffic, so they reduce congestion significantly. The thing that we want people to understand is the way to drive those. A couple of quick tips that you can use is look at the signs as you approach the roundabout. The signs tell you which lanes to be in to go which direction. You want to go right, you want to go straight, you want to go left. Get in this lane. So choose the lane that you want to be in before you get to the roundabout. get in that lane and stay in it. What you don't want to do is switch lanes inside the roundabout. That's where we see problems. People switch lanes without looking to make sure there's not somebody in the next lane and we have a side swipe. Usually there's no injury, but it's still a crash, and we don't like to see that at all, of course. So choose your lane, stay in your lane, and as you come up to the roundabout, remember that you just have to yield to traffic that's in the circle. So you look to your left to see if there's anybody coming in the circle. When it's clear, go ahead, but yield to the traffic that's there. So choose your lane in advance, yield to the traffic that's there, and don't switch lanes in the roundabout. The other thing I suggest to people who are not comfortable driving with them, maybe not familiar with them, is you need to drive through that intersection. Go out there maybe on a Sunday morning when there's not much traffic and drive around it a couple times, familiarize yourself with it. I think once people do that, we really find that they like them a lot, that they have eliminated a lot of backups at traffic signals in the county. They've really helped as far as safety, and we think they're a really good thing in many situations.
Craig, I love roundabouts, and I know I have a couple other family members and friends that love them, and a couple more that just cannot stand driving through them. They don't understand why they were put in instead of just the traditional traffic lights. From the Road Commission's point of view, as you're planning these projects and you're changing these intersections from traditional traffic light situations to roundabouts, why are roundabouts so much more beneficial in some situations or more efficient in some situations than the traditional traffic lights?
Well, let me give you the example of moving traffic. A traditional traffic signal, you have 50% of the traffic stopped at all times, right? Two directions of traffic are stopped while the other direction is going. So 50% of all the traffic going through that intersection is stopped at all times. That's not an efficient model. With a roundabout, traffic is flowing in all directions at all times. You slow down a little bit coming into the roundabout, but you keep moving generally. So traffic moves a lot faster, and the engineers nationally and internationally estimate that you can get between 30 and 50% more traffic through that intersection with a roundabout than with a signalized intersection. So they're great for moving traffic and reducing congestion. And West Bloomfield is a prime example of that. If you look at the roundabouts along Maple Road, at Drake and Farmington Road, for example, we used to have massive east-west backups in rush hour. Those are pretty much gone now. There's maybe a slight delay at the peak of rush hour, but traffic flows through those intersections far better than it did before when there were signals there. Secondly, one of the worst things we see in urbanized counties is traffic fatalities at signalized intersections. And those happen generally in two ways. One, either a head-on collision, two cars come through an intersection, head-on collision, or a T-bone, when somebody's turning left and somebody comes through and hits them broadside. That's where people get killed. That's where the serious injuries are. With a roundabout, you're pretty much physically eliminating the possibility of either of those two types of crashes from happening. You got an island in the center, so it's extremely difficult to have a head-on collision unless you go up and over the island. That's extremely unusual. And because traffic is flowing in one direction around the roundabout, you're not having those T-bone collisions. And the numbers bear that out. Nationally, we see about a 90% reduction in fatalities when roundabouts replace signalized intersections. And frankly, there's virtually nothing else we can do as a road agency that reduces traffic fatalities by 90%. That's huge from a traffic safety point of view. So safety-wise, we love them. Efficiency-wise, they are working great.
Craig, any further plans in the future to put more roundabouts in the Oakland County area?
Absolutely. We every year we do at least a couple of intersection improvement projects, and now our standard protocol is we look at the intersection and we determine, is a roundabout better, is adding a couple of turn lanes better, and whatever makes the most sense in that intersection. And oftentimes that is roundabout. So you will see, from this point forward, we'll continue to see additional roundabouts, if not every year, at least every couple of years throughout the county, and they'll just begin to proliferate. And one of the benefits of that, by the way, is the more roundabouts there are, the more people become familiar with driving them, the less we have this problem of people not being familiar with.
Well, Craig, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate having you on. Craig Bryson, the Senior Manager of Communications at the Road Commission for Oakland County, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And following up with that, Ronnie, I have to ask you, are you a roundabout person? Do you not like roundabouts?
So when you go to Europe, roundabouts have been in use there forever. And so we were familiar with them prior to them even coming to the area. But I will say, sometimes when we were in France and the first few times you drove them, you did get kind of stuck in that circle because you weren't used to it, and then you were afraid to get over. But once you got used to them, they are so much quicker and more efficient. But I still see confusion at the roundabouts every time you have to use one, especially this one up here at Orchard Lake and Northwestern Highway. That one seems to get people going. I've seen a few accidents there as well, and I think maybe it's because that's, you know, the road kind of splits there as well, and then you have Northwestern coming in, so it can get a little confusing. But like he said, from a safety standpoint, if you look at the numbers, I know people dispute it when they were first put into practice here throughout Oakland County, but from a safety standpoint, once people become accustomed to the roundabouts, they are much safer, and the traffic backups are considerably less congested. I would be interested to know if they're ever going to get rid of the Michigan left turn, though.
That would be interesting. That has always been a little bit of a point of confusion for me. I get why, I get the purpose of them to a certain extent. I just don't love them because people don't entirely understand all the rules for them. They don't understand necessarily that what you can do and not do when it's a red light and you're in a Michigan left, when to go left, how you should go about getting into the proper lane without creating a major issue there. Whereas with roundabouts, I love roundabouts. I've already said that. I'm very much pro roundabout because of the way that it helps move traffic through, and because, of course, of the many studies that have shown that roundabouts tend to be so much safer than traditional intersections. And I can attest to, especially in West Bloomfield and the Maple Road roundabouts, having worked in this general area at Civic Center TV for several years, and having worked in the general area with other organizations just before that in the previous summers while in school, that the difference now with the roundabouts on Maple Road at Farmington Road and Drake Road versus several years ago is day and night, so much better now than the traffic in those times. Well, we just have a few more minutes left in today's program, and as we continue to navigate COVID-19 and we continue to navigate all the other major events coming up this year, including the 2020 election, it's good to get some advice from local experts. We talked to a lot of them here on the Oakland County Megacast, and just yesterday we talked to Oakland University Professor David Dulio, who's also the director of the Center for Civic Engagement, who says that we can have differing opinions on political issues without labeling the opposition as evil. And here are his thoughts yesterday on this edition of the Oakland County Megacast.
Our nation has been divided and polarized before. Has it ever been this bad? It's hard to make an objective statement about that without data or when you're in it like we are right now. But we have been divided and polarized previously. And one of the differences, I think, is the ratcheting up of the vitriol about the other person, right? The person that you disagree with. I think back in the past, and one example comes to mind, that when Ronald Reagan was president and a gentleman by the name of Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House, they would battle all day, and they would go back and forth about differences of policy, but then they would have a drink together, and that doesn't happen anymore. In our nation's capital, I bet it doesn't happen in Lansing. There were relationships between elected officials that were partisan and divided, only in terms of policy, not in terms of personal vitriol. And I know that is seeping into the public, where you see some of the sparring that's going on back and forth between different sides of various issues right now, whether it's from protests over police violence or heck, even wearing a mask, right? There are differences of opinion, but what I would really like to see more people figure out is that just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean that they are an evil person.
You can have a difference of opinion with somebody and still have a conversation with them about those issues. We thank David Dulio for that excellent point yesterday on the Oakland County Megacast. And in addition, we spoke earlier on in the week with Chief Greg Flynn about the mask issue and about other COVID-19 issues and all that different information that's out there and why it's so important for us as a community, both in the West Bloomfield area where he serves and in the general Oakland County area, to work together to navigate that misinformation so that we're making smart and informed decisions that help protect everybody in the community. Here's that clip.
So much information out there and so much misinformation. So much information that is portraying everybody as wearing masks that's going to protect them from getting the disease, not understanding the physical barrier that a face covering provides as of just a permanent covering your cough type approach. What physical distancing really is trying to do, which is when someone doesn't have a mask on and they can't cover that cough, that the physical distance is part of a mitigation strategy. So much of this discussion is turned into what I have a right to do or what I can do. And I won't engage in this argument with folks. You can do destructive things. You can do things that are hurtful to our community. I get that. I understand that. What we want to engage with, and I think what so many businesses want to engage with, are residents and customers that want to take some personal responsibility, some civic responsibility, so that truly this hashtag "we're all in this together" means something.
Greg Flynn earlier this week on an edition of the Oakland County Megacast. All those interviews and clips on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. You can watch short clips, full interviews, and our entire episodes, as well as learn more information and find resources about our partnering TV and radio stations on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, our top stories of each and every day, as well as resources from your local municipalities, information you need to know from places like West Bloomfield Township, Bloomfield Hills, the city of Rochester Hills, the city of Pontiac, and other municipalities in our area, as well as resources to the state of Michigan and Oakland County's COVID-19 coronavirus informational pages. They give you information you need to know about finding testing locations, about proper use of PPE, and state, federal, and local programs that are in place in regards to coronavirus. That is going to do it for our program today. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We'd like to thank our entire crew and all of our guests for joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast, and we appreciate you tuning in as well. For Ronnie Dahl, I'm Tyler Kieft. The Oakland County Megacast returns on Thursday.